I never thought I'd watch the president of our HOA, this woman who strutted around like she owned the entire neighborhood, running across her front yard at 7 in the morning, screaming her head off, dyed bright turquoise from head to toe. But what no one knew that day was this. She'd been sneaking into my backyard, swimming in my pool at midnight for weeks, trespassing like my property was her personal spa. And by the time I finally snapped, by the time I finally fought back, I wasn't just dealing with embarrassment or annoyance, I was fighting for the last piece of my father I had left. So, let me take you back to the beginning. I moved back to Sunny Ridge Estates the summer after my dad passed away. The house, my dad's pride, a 2-story brick place with shutters he painted himself, felt like the only place I could breathe right again. I wanted peace, space, and maybe a little quiet while I figured out how to live without him. But Sunny Ridge is the kind of neighborhood where everything looks perfect from the outside: trimmed hedges, smiling couples, walking dogs, clean sidewalks. And under all that, gossip, judgment, and an HOA that treats rules the way the IRS treats taxes. The queen of that HOA was Karen Whitmore. And yes, her name really was Karen. Picture a woman in her mid-40s power suit, everyday sunglasses so big they practically touched her hairline, strutting around with a clipboard like she was inspecting troops at a military base. She had this air about her like everyone owed her something, even if she couldn't articulate what that something actually was. People feared her. Not respected, feared. It was the kind of fear that makes grown adults pretend not to be home if they see her walking up the driveway. At first, I barely interacted with her. I waved, she nodded stiffly, and that was that. Until one night around 11:47 p.m. when I was sitting by the window with a cup of coffee trying to tire myself out enough to sleep. The moonlight was hitting the pool just right, so I noticed it immediately: ripples. My pool was disturbed. I hadn't been in it all week. I grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside, and when the beam hit the water, I froze. There she was, Karen, floating on one of my pool loungers, wine glass in hand, humming to herself like a woman on vacation in the Caribbean. I cleared my throat. She shrieked, splashing, struggling to sit upright, then instantly tried to recover her dignity. "Oh, Mark, you're awake," she said, pushing wet hair off her face. "I was just checking the pool temperature. HOA business. You know." "No, Karen. I did not know. I didn't know the HOA president had authority to test my water at midnight in a robe and a nearly empty bottle of Chardonnay. But I let it go. I honestly hoped it was a bizarre one-time thing. It wasn't. 2 nights later, same thing. Then again, and again. Sometimes she'd bring a different wine. Sometimes she'd talk on the phone while wading through my shallow end. Sometimes she'd hum show tunes. Sometimes she left things behind: wet towels, empty bottles, even a gold bracelet once. By the 3rd week, I couldn't pretend anymore. So one afternoon, when I saw her inspecting a neighbor's mailbox, something I'm 100% sure was not an HOA responsibility, I walked over and said as politely as possible, "Hey, Karen, I'd appreciate it if you stopped coming into my yard and using my pool without permission." She smirked. Actually smirked. Lowered her sunglasses, stared straight at me, and said, "Uninvited." "Oh, Mark, don't be dramatic. This neighborhood values sharing." Then she added something that sent a cold, sharp line down my spine. "Private property doesn't exist when you're part of my HOA." She walked away like she had just won an argument I didn't even know I was having. The next morning, a letter was taped to my door. Violation 112, improper pool gate maintenance. The day after, violation 119, overgrown shrubbery. Then came 3 more fines. Over $700 for things I had never even noticed were violations. I knew what she was doing. Everyone would have known. But when you're new back in town, when half the neighborhood acts like Karen is some kind of judge and executioner, you start doubting yourself. I lay awake one night staring at the ceiling, wondering, am I overreacting? Am I misjudging her? Am I the one being dramatic? A week later, while digging through old boxes of my dad's paperwork, I found a sealed envelope labeled "For the Next Owner." Inside was a letter handwritten in his neat, measured script. "Mark, if you ever move back here, beware of Karen Whitmore. She runs this HOA like a kingdom. But remember, strength isn't in fighting. It's in Standing Smart. I read that line over and over. Standing smart. That was Dad's thing. Quiet strength, patience, picking your battles. But I'll be honest, I wasn't feeling strong. I felt tired, cornered, embarrassed, even violated. I wanted to give up, pack my bags, and leave the house behind. Losing the last piece of my father hurt less somehow than staying here and being bullied by a woman with a clipboard. Then something happened that snapped me out of that spiral. My elderly neighbor, Mr. Halpern, who usually spoke as little as humanly possible, shuffled up to me one evening while I was checking my mail. He leaned in and whispered, "We've all been waiting for someone to stand up to her." I blinked. He added, "If you leave, she wins." Again, and for the first time since I'd moved back. I felt something shift. I wasn't alone. Other people were scared of her too. Other people wanted change. My dad's letter. Mr. Halpern's whisper, those two things collided and lit a fuse inside me. So I stopped reacting. I started planning. First step, security cameras. Silent. Hidden. Motion activated. Second, floodlights connected to my phone. Every night around the same time, there she was. Karen slipping through my side gate like she owned the place. Swimming in my pool under the moonlight. Talking loudly on Bluetooth calls. Sipping wine, humming Broadway songs. I collected video after video, ironclad proof. But I didn't just want to expose her. I wanted something poetic, something she couldn't twist, manipulate, or bury under HOA technicalities. And one afternoon, while browsing at a maintenance supply store, I saw it. A huge drum of pool dye safe, non-toxic, HOA approved. The color sky blue show formula. 50 gallons. My brain clicked. If she wanted to turn my pool into her private lounge, fine. She could live with the consequences. Late that night, I poured all 50 gallons into the pool and stirred until the water glowed like liquid sapphire. Under the moonlight, it looked magical, ethereal, impossible to ignore, and definitely impossible to swim in without turning into a human gemstone. I waited. At 12:43 a.m., the gate creaked open. Karen slipped in wearing a white designer swimsuit, something that looked expensive enough to require its own insurance policy. She didn't turn on the lights. She didn't check the water. She just dove. And the moment she hit the surface, a bright blue splash exploded upward. Her hair, her skin, her swimsuit, everything instantly soaked up the dye like a sponge. I swear I almost felt bad. Almost. The next morning, Sunny Ridge Estates became a circus. Karen raced across her yard, screaming at her gardener, her hair glowing turquoise in the sun. Neighbors peeked out through blinds. People recorded on their phones. Someone even live-streamed it, over 500 viewers in 10 minutes. Then she stormed toward my house. She pounded on the door until I stepped out. "You humiliated me," she shrieked. "You poisoned my skin," I let her yell, let her rage. Then I calmly held up my phone. "Non-toxic," I said, "and fully HOA approved. But this is you." I hit play. Video after video of her trespassing, swimming, drinking, sneaking through my gate. Her jaw fell open. The greenish-blue tint on her face made her look almost unreal, a mix of fury, shock, and humiliation. By noon, an emergency HOA meeting was called. For the first time since I'd moved back, the entire neighborhood showed up, not out of fear, but curiosity, excitement, maybe even hope. Karen tried talking her way out of it, claiming she was conducting pool safety inspections, but every excuse only made things worse. My videos were undeniable. Her late-night swims, her retaliation finds, her abuse of authority laid bare in front of everyone. When it came time to vote, it wasn't even close. The HOA board unanimously suspended her, removed her from the presidency, stripped every ounce of the power she'd clung to for years. And just like that, the tyrant of Sunny Ridge fell. No more fines, no more patrols, no more Karen lurking behind hedges with a clipboard. As I walked out of that meeting, people patted my shoulder, nodded, whispered thank you. But I didn't celebrate. I didn't smile. I didn't feel victorious. I felt relieved, exhausted, like I finally had my house back, my father's house, my home. If there's one thing I learned through all of this, it's simple. Some battles aren't won with anger, they're won with patience, proof, and the courage to finally say enough.